I had a paper round, and somebody on my paper round had Hot Rod magazine. And I wasn't smart enough to wonder why or wonder even who it was. But I'd sit on the curb reading it, you know, grey skies, grey cars, reading about red and yellow cars under blue skies, and just was enamored. I just loved that whole American hot rod scene and just became obsessed with it. And then in 64, 65, the People sponsored the first drag fests. And again, I still do my paper round, and I said to my dad, you know, can we go to Blackbush? And he goes, is there a beer tent? And I go, I'm sure there's a beer tent, Dad. And so we went, and I was just hooked. I just couldn't, just couldn't believe, even though it rained. I think 65 Blackbush was almost rained out, but it was 10 top fuel cars from America. Some of those guys I'm still friends with, like Tommy Ivo or Don Garlitz or Merrick Churtcow, who drove the Moon Eyes dragster. And I bought a Moon Eyes t-shirt. And I took it home, and my dad thought it was the stupidest thing he'd ever seen, because back then nobody wore a logo T-shirt. No. Well, the next year I bought a plastic German helmet from Dick's Place over there, and that was worse. That was worse to buy the German helmet than it was to buy the T-shirt. My dad said, we fought those in the war, you know, but it didn't matter. I was just enamored with it. And it took a long time to figure out how to get a job in the industry, because, you know, my dad was doing construction, and he wasn't a car guy. He drank beer, but he was very supportive. And so somehow through a friend of mine, Phil Mather, I kind of finagled an intro to Bike magazine. I was into bikes at the time and had a little chopper business down in Maidstone, and with a friend of mine, Robin. And I was working with this old guy. I was a telecom engineer for British Telecom, and just hated it. And I was working with this old boy, and he would argue black was white just for the fun of arguing. And the magazine came out, and I didn't like it very much. And he said, well, write to the editor. He said, tell him it's rubbish. I said, can you do that? He goes, sure, of course you can. So we put together a letter, and I sent it off to Mark Williams, who was the editor at Bike magazine at the time. And he wrote back, and I still have the letter. I found it the other day, actually. I didn't even know I still had it. And it said, if you're so clever, you write for us. I thought, well, I'll give it a go. Yeah. And so,
just before we go any further, this is Tony Thacker.
Oh, yeah, hi. I already knew that.
Travelling here from the
from
US,
California.
California, yeah. So, this is interesting. So from the moment of writing to the magazine.
Yeah, I was in. And then he said, well, we want a story on drag racing, and you like drag racing, go to Santa Pod and do a story on it. So I came and did a story, and I got a press pass, and I got in for free and published a story. So I'm thinking, God, this is incredible. You know, what sort of life is this? And I just loved it, but I had no real education for that kind of thing. Still can't spell, even with spell check. And but I had enthusiasm, and I think if you have enthusiasm, you can get a long way in this world sometimes. And so I did the drag racing story, got paid, and said, what else? And he said, well, do you know anything about custom painting? And I said, yeah, I know Pete Darwell, who at the time owned Mexspray, which was the biggest custom painter in England at the time. And so I went and did a story on Pete at Mexspray, got paid again. So
is that cars or bikes?
He was painting cars. He painted some motorcycles, but mostly he painted cars. And he won Best Paint at, I think, the first 3 custom car shows. Pete was a very talented painter back in, that would have been like late 60s, early 70s. And so it just, and the idea for more stories came easily. Well, there's a story. Well, there's a story. Well, there's a story. And that bit has always come easily to me. So it wasn't no problem finding, more stories. But the problem was there were no magazines back then. There was Custom Car and there was Bike, and that was it. So I wrote to Big Bike magazine in America, because I was half bike and half car. I like both. And I wrote to Big Bike magazine, and the editor wrote back and said, yeah, do some stories for us. So now I'm writing for an American magazine. And my first wife, Bev, and I, we decided to go to America. And the editor said, well, we'll set you up. We'll get your bikes. We'll set you up on a road trip. You'll drive to Oregon on these choppers. And that was 1973. And It was just fantastic. And, what happens is you meet an awful lot of people. And, if you're not, don't screw up, people are great. And in this industry, people are fantastic. As you know, we've all made loads and loads of friends. Yeah. And for the most part, it's just one great, big, lovely family. And so it works very easily that way. And finally in 1977, I think, I got a job on Hot Car magazine. I wasn't a Hot Car magazine
Was
fan.
that here or
That was here.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a particular fan of Hot Car. It was always kind of goofy cars, but it was a job.
Yeah.
And now I'm a journalist and I'm getting paid. And then Link House, that published Custom Car, they were going to launch a new hot rod magazine called Hot Rod and Custom UK. And they said, do you want to come and be the technical editor? And first of all, I said, no, not really. I've got a job. And they went, no, you're making a mistake. You need to come and join us here. Colin Gam, he was the publisher at the time. So I went to Link House and really never looked
Croydon.
back. Yeah, in Croydon.
Yes,
yeah,
that's where Custom Car magazine.
Yeah, that's where Custom Car was back in those days.
Yeah.
And I was there for 8 years.
So where was you living at that time?
Lived in Maidstone originally, and then around Sevenoaks. And so it was real close to Croydon. Driving every day, and it was not a problem.
Up through Whiteleaf.
All that. And it was just great, and got to know a lot of people, built a lot of projects, did some drag racing. We came here a lot to Santa Pod. I was here for the very first meeting, April 1966.
Yeah,
I was here for the first meeting. Me and two schoolmates caught the bus to Newport Pagnell, and we thought we'd hitchhike to the pod. Well, in 1966, there was no traffic. I mean, none. We walked all the way from Newport Pagnell to, I think, Wollaston or somewhere, where somebody finally picked us up. And it rained, misty, foggy, wasn't great. But, we loved it.
That's hardcore, that is.
It was hardcore back then, yeah. We managed to get a ride home, but getting here was hard work. And I'm not a great driver, though. That's the sort of bad part of the story, is that I'm not really a very good natural seat of the pants driver. I'm just kind of going along, so I never became a real hardcore racer. I was kind of always on the sidelines. I always liked the people and the stories more than I actually liked driving. But it's good to know your limitations. It's okay. I don't have a problem with it, really. I'd like to have gone fast, but that wasn't on my agenda.
Yeah.
So and then finally after Link House, I went book publishing for a while, because I could see that the magazine, once you're the editor and you're only 35, I think I was 30 something, what are you going to do? There's nowhere to go. There's no progression from that. If you like being in the sharp end, you could go on to be, say, a publisher, but then now all you're doing is moving figures around. I didn't fancy that. So I went book publishing for a couple of years and published a lot of books, probably 100 books for Osprey. And that was really, really eye-opening, because we did books like Racing the Silver Arrows. We did books on Lancias. We did books on Aston Martins. It wasn't just hot rod. It was wide. So that was a really great eye-opener to see all of these other worlds that I really wasn't that aware of, And it was fantastic. I mean, really, really good. And then in 88, England was a bit of a mess. And a friend of mine, Pete Chaporis, owned a company called Pete and Jake's Hot Rod Parts, very famous hot rod company back in those days. And he said, well, why don't you come to America? I thought, well, why not? So I got on a plane and flew to California. I flew in on, I think, Friday or Saturday. Went to his house on the Sunday, and he said, he was working at SEMA, the trade association for our industry. And he said, why don't you come down and have lunch and start networking? I thought, what's networking? What is that? I didn't have any idea what networking was. But I went and had lunch, and they said, we're going to launch a magazine. Would you like to be editor? I said, I don't have a green card or anything. I said, that's okay. We'll take care of that. And they took care of that. And I worked there for nearly 10 years. And I got to understand what networking meant, in the American sense of you meet everybody. And I met everybody from Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top to George Bush to Garlitz. I mean, everybody in the industry, I managed to meet through the SEMA show.
I guess you would have these different SEMA conferences.
I mean, they were always doing something. And I was doing the magazine at the time, SEMA magazine, which is SEMA News now, I suppose. And so every month, we do interviews with people, we do stories about companies. And, again, as I say, as long as you don't screw up, those people are nearly always there for you. Yeah. And so if I didn't already know them, after 10 years, everybody, Boyd Coddington, you name it, I met them and worked with them in lots of cases. So it was an absolutely incredible grounding. But I got pushed off the magazine into a job liaising with Ford and Chevy and GM. And I just couldn't see doing it for the rest of my career. I thought, and they're quite hard to deal with because they have a different agenda than the rest of us, that are making parts. And I just thought, I don't think I can do this for 20 more years. So I quit and went to do some work for Pete, worked for Boyd Coddington when Boyd employed Chip and Jesse James when he had his shop. And that was a whole nother experience. Boyd was an incredible character. Some people liked him, some people didn't, but we had a lot of fun. I did piss him off a few times. I did a story about billet wheels being dead. I said, it's over. And he called me up. He was so angry. He said, it might be dead, but I've got warehouses full of wheels. So don't you tell anybody it's dead because we need to sell those wheels. And so we had 2 or 3 of those little, altercations, but mostly it was great fun. I got to work with Chip Foose, and we're still really good friends. I got to work with Larry Erickson, Cadzilla designer, who's here today. You should do an interview with Larry, by the way.
Is he around still?
He's in the pits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, designed Cadzilla, the Aluma Coupe, the 2005 Mustang. I mean, Larry's done so much work, and he's a very quiet, unassuming guy. He lives here in England now for a while. And Bonneville racer, hot rodder. So SEMA and Boyd's was, again, another place where it was another dimension to our industry. Boyd was a bit of a gambler, but he had an amazing knack of finding the money to build a project. If you came in and said, well, we want to build this, Cadzilla or whatever, he knew how to go and find the money. And you always need that because somebody's got to pay the bill at the end of the day. And Boyd was really canny at that. I loved him for that. He was and he taught me a lot. He was a very talented, again, self-built guy. And that's what's sort of really been interesting in this industry, that so many of these people have no training for what they're doing. Yeah. It's just passion.
Wasn't that like a lot of people? Even if you went into the world, I know there's someone like Richard Branson, he didn't have that training.
Didn't have anything, still doesn't, says he's dyslexic or whatever.
Tubular bells was what kicked him off. Yeah. And that's the sort of world that we were in.
Yeah. I don't think it's the same now, but certainly back then in the 80s, 90s, you could get a long way on enthusiasm. And it's always held me in good stead. And then just about in the mid-90s, the hot rod scene was changing. Boyd's style of cars were going a little bit out of fashion. And again, my old friend Pete Traporis had relaunched the SoCal Speed Shop and invited me to come on and handle the marketing and the clothing. And again, for another 10 years, we had a hell of a run, man. We did some really cool stuff. We built Bonneville cars for MG. We built 5 or 6 Bonneville cars for GM. I've got my own Thacker and Shine Roadster that we raced at Bonneville, and eventually got a record at over 200. And that was so funny. We were trying to get to 200, and I think we got to 201. And I called my wife and said, we ran 201. She goes, did you get a record? I go, no. She goes, then you ain't done yet. Put the phone down, which was great.
Well, that's encouraging. That
it was. It was great. It gives you the motivation to go and do it. And then I didn't really have the money for a big engine. We needed a bigger engine. But I've always been interested in aerodynamics. And so I approached a friend of mine, Peter Stevens, who's McLaren F1 designer, who's another interview you should do. And Peter said, well, if you can get the car to England, we can put it in the wind tunnel at Myra. And I will help you get to that land speed record. So I went to Hot Rod Magazine, David Freiberger, who everybody knows from Roadkill. David's a good friend. And he said, well, if you get the car to England, I will buy the story of you taking it and putting it in the wind tunnel, and that will give you enough money to pay for the wind tunnel at £15 a minute. So in 2005, shipped the car over through Kingstown Shipping again, and we put it in the Myra wind tunnel. And through Peter's help and cardboard and bits of string or whatever, we got it a Model A, aerodynamic enough to run over 200 miles an hour. So I ran Goodwood, I ran it in the Festival of Speed up the hill, shipped it back to California and made the modifications for real, not in cardboard. And we got a record at 206.454, which was enough.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was fantastic. And I raced with Jimmy Shine. He was my partner in that car. It was Thacker and Shine. And I was the wallet and Jimmy was the wrench. But I tell you what, he was a great guy to race with. We're still friends. And he did just an absolutely superb job, because at the end of it, we were going to run, I think, in September. And when I got back from England, they said, "Oh, we're going in August." I said, "Well, the car's not ready. We don't even have an engine." And he said, "Don't worry, we'll take care of it." And so Bill Mitchell at World Products shipped us a block. Jimmy put it together. He drove it to Chico. They put it on the dyno. He drove it to LA. They put it in the car. They drove to Bonneville all in a week.
Wow.
And we got a record. It was just,
So
I'm goosebumpy now.
What's the record then? 200?
The record at the time was like 203.
Yeah.
And we went, I think, 206.
Wow.
And with a fastest speed of 208. Which for a Model A Ford with a small block Chevy, it was only 302.
So what was that? 302.
302, yeah, D class, yeah. And back then, they weren't making the horsepower they are nowadays. So it was great. It was good. And then a guy comes up to me, super lovely man. He goes, "Do you want to sell that car?" I said, "No, not really." He said, "Well, I got a big bag of cash." I said, "How big?" He goes, "It's a big bag of cash." I said, "It's yours. Take it." Because we were done. I mean, and we were never going to be able to up that record. He did. He got it up to 225, something like that. And but I wasn't in a position to be able to do that. And then I got a call from Wally Parks, the founder of the NHRA.
Yeah, NHRA, yeah.
Yeah. And Wally said, "We need somebody to come and run the NHRA museum. Would you be interested in that?" And I'm always, what's next? What's next? You can tell. And I went, "Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be a great challenge." I didn't know anything about museums. And again, it's the enthusiasm that gets you through, because you're not going to fail. So you're going to figure out how to make it work. So, but I didn't realize that running the museum was also running the hot rod reunions, the one in Bowling Green, the one in California. I mean, it was a job. It was a job with a big what do you call it, agenda or whatever it was. I mean, it was
at the Bakersfield.
Yeah, Bakersfield Hot Rod Reunion.
Yeah.
And I did that from 2006 to 2012. Yeah. And it was a task. It was probably one of the best jobs I've ever had, but also one of the toughest. I mean, there's a lot of personality in that world, and they're not all pulling in the same direction.
No.
So it was tough. It was a tough job, but I loved it and I learned a lot. And at the end of that, I got headhunted by a lovely man in Oregon called Dave Bainey, and he said, "I want to build a museum in Portland, Oregon. Would you like to come and do that?" And I went, "Yeah, why not? Let's go."
Yeah.
And so lived in Portland, Oregon for a while, and we built a stunning museum called the World of Speed. I mean, I was really very, very proud of it. And Dave died.
Yeah, what did you have in there?
Oh gosh, I mean, Dave was like a 60s guy, loved 60s American cars, loved drag racing, used to run a car called the Tiki Warrior. It was an alcohol funny car. So we had a bit of NASCAR, a little bit of hot rodding, a little bit of drag racing, a little bit of every American motorsport, a little bit of Indy. But he was mainly a sort of an American car drag racing kind of guy. Yeah. So it focused on that. But I mean, Dave never said no. We were building this giant video wall. It was 18 feet tall, I think, and 150 feet wide. And I can't remember how much money it was now, but we had like 6 or 8 projectors projecting onto this wall. And it was a video of the history of Bonneville. And Dave goes, "Are you happy with it?" I said, "Yeah, it's okay, Dave." I said, "But we could do with a couple more projectors." And he said, "How much is that?" I said, "Probably $100,000. He goes, "Well, what are you waiting for? Get on it." And so we went and bought 2 more projectors and, built this great big wall. So Dave was lovely to work with. He could afford it. And he was a really lovely, lovely man, super enthusiastic. But unfortunately, he had a kidney problem and came home from the hospital for Easter, died. So it was really sad. But that coincided with my sort of desire to retire, because those last 10 years had been really, really intense. Lots and lots of work, lots of time away from my family doing events and whatever else. But the minute I packed in, English guys would know Ron Hope, who used to run the Rat Trap here. Mm-hmm. Ron calls me and says, "Hey, it's our 50th anniversary of the Rat Trap. We're going to go on a world tour. Do you want to come and do the PR and marketing?" And I didn't even think about saying no. I just said, yeah, sign me up. So I worked with Ron until his passing in 2020. I think he died. 2021, I'm not sure now, I forget. But we did everything. We came to England. Our first trip was to Dragstalgia in England. We went to Hockenheim. Then we went to New Zealand. We went to Australia. We went to Newfoundland. I mean, we just went everywhere with that car. And it's just absolutely fantastic. Ron was probably one of the loveliest men I've ever worked for. He was a really, really lovely sweetheart of a man. His family are very nice. And but it was just great fun. It was just really, really good. And that's how I got to meet Nick Davies with a no quarter, and that's how I got to meet Jeff Stillwell through Ron. I'd never met Jeff before, and Jeff bought his Bonneville car in. I think Ron put him in a car in 2016 or 17. Just said, "Here's my car, go drive it," which is Ron did to everybody, including Lord March and people like that. Here's the car, get in it, go. And so Jeff decided to buy a car and set a record in 2018 at 258 miles an hour, which is pretty strong. It's a pretty good record. But he blew it up at the time. And so then the car just stopped. Nobody kind of really knew what to do. And I said to Jeff, well, we can get the car. We can get it back to California. We can take it to Mick Jenkins Mixed Paint in Pomona, as another Brit friend, and we can rebuild it. So we got the car back in California, got a couple of Kiwi guys on it, Silky and Kiwi Steve, and tore it all apart, and pretty much ended up having to build a whole new car though, because we cut into the chassis to stretch it, to put a bigger engine and a bigger fuel tank in there, and when they cut into the pipe of the chassis, it was too thin.
Right.
It was too thin,
holding it now.
Which was really goofy because Bonneville doesn't need to be too thin; it needs to be too heavy. So we had to build a whole new car, and so that was all done at Mix Paint. And I think we got it out at 2019. We had a few problems, but Bonneville's a very tough place to race. Nobody. We had somebody criticize us recently. Jeff went, just got a record at 289, and somebody goes, "Well, that's nothing. Dragsters go just as fast in a quarter of a mile." Well, but that's on asphalt, under good conditions. Racing at Bonneville, you're basically racing, on a lake bed that's wet in the morning and then dry and then wet again. It changes constantly, and it's a really hard place to race.
The atmosphere is going to change.
Atmosphere, it's absolutely hot. It's like 120 degrees some days. It's freezing in the morning because you have to get on the salt at 6 a.m. And one year we went and we were on the salt at 6 a.m. and we didn't run till 6:30 at night. Take all day to get in line and to run, because if you have an oil down or an accident or something like that. So it's a tough place to race.
And people probably don't realise the different classes. So you might go and do 220, but that would be in your class bracket.
Yeah.
It's not quite, Duncan Campbell stuff.
Oh, no. So it depends on engine size.
Like Andy Green and things like that. Yeah. That's a completely different ballgame. It's
a different ballgame, And, Jeff's doing this pretty much out of his pocket. There's got a few sponsors like Redline Oil, but mostly it's back pocket racing, as most of this is nowadays. This is nearly all back pocket. There's hardly any sponsorship. Even in America, there's very little sponsorship nowadays, because most of the companies are owned by private equity investment groups, whatever. They're not interested in sponsoring anybody. If they're going to have a race, they're going to have their own race. They don't need to give you money. So it's very, very difficult. There are no individual companies like there were 20, 30 years ago. There's no, there is Iski, but there's none of the others. They're all gone. They're all gobbled up by investment groups.
So even the likes of Mobil, Shell, all of them gone. Yeah.
They haven't all gone.
They're not
interested. And the problem is our sport is not Formula One. Not that I would want it to be, but it doesn't get like Bonneville. It's a hopeless place for spectators. It's because the pits are 5 miles from the start line, and and the track goes off like that for safety. So the public are way out there. They can just see a little dot. So what's that going to do for a sponsor? Doesn't do anything. And interestingly, I had a couple of guys in England call me about getting American sponsors for events here in England. And I said, well, most American companies want a 10-time return on their investment.
Yeah.
So if they give you $1,000, they want $10,000 worth of advertising, and they want to be able to measure it. They want to be able to quantify it. Well, most guys in England haven't even got any idea what that means. So, you know, you got it, whether it's looks on Facebook, whether it's, you know, magazine stories, and they don't care about magazines anymore. That's pretty much all dead. But they want to know what they got in return for their money. And it's a tough sell. It really is a very, very tough sell. And of course, we're all in the same pot trying to get money from the same people. And, you know, if you went to an oil company, luckily Jeff has a great deal with Redline, but typically if you went to an oil company and said, sponsor me, and they go, why? We're in the business of selling oil. We're not in the business of giving away oil. Yeah, anybody can do that.
Yeah.
So what are you going to give me in return? So Jeff, you know, works, you know, extremely hard on posting stuff to make Redline understand the value of the sponsorship. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand that you've got to give a lot back.
This is sponsored through Jeff with Redline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, the land speed car is. Yeah, and even Nick uses. Yeah. Oh, it is. Oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, and even Nick Davis is sponsored by. No, I think it's a different company this week. I'm sorry, but it's tough, and people don't understand it, and they say, well, you know, we'll put a couple of banners at the track, and you go, well, there's only 100 people there watching the race, and half of them, even maybe not even half, are going to buy that product. So what did they get out of it? What value, and we call it ROI, return on investment. What return did they get on that investment in you as a racer? And if you can't prove that to them, then you don't deserve the sponsorship, and you're not going to get it either. So it's, you know, it's a kind of a moot point at that. But it's tough now, and I don't think that's going to get any easier because the industry is consolidating. There are lots of other, and basically it comes out of passion. You know, if you're a passionate racer and you're working at Redline, then you're looking at your sport. But if you're just a marketing person working at a company, you might like tennis.
Yeah.
So you think, well, I'm going to put my money into tennis. I'm not going to put my money into drag racing. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So it's a tough sell. All of it. All of motorsports is a tough sell anymore, unless you can get big numbers, and they're hard to get. You know, they're tough.
Yeah.
But,
so with your knowledge of obviously of Bonneville, El Mirage as well, working with Jeff's 7707, your career in drag racing obviously started with a Paperboy.
Yeah.
But where did you then go from there?
Oh, in drag racing?
Yeah. What was your
well, I worked
finest stuff, if you like, really?
Yeah, I worked for Hot Rod and Custom. It was part of the Link House Custom Car Group, and we sponsored funny car races here at Sandapod. And I did a little bit, but as I said, I'm not a great driver. So, you know, I think I drove a Mustang for Gary Shack. I drove Russ Carpenter's Daimler-powered Glacier Grade. You know, I think I did an 8 or a 9 in that. It was okay, but I'm just not.
You're not a speed freak, no?
I'm not. I mean, no, not really.
So what would be your favourite class of drag racing?
Oh, me? Oh, I drive my little hot rod. Yeah. I mean, I just ran it at Romo in Denmark. It's a beach race. It's an 8th mile beach drag race.
Wow.
And you just pull up and race whoever's next to you, or, you know, whoever you choose. And it was great. I really loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. And so we, you know, thanks to Clive at Stromberg Carburetors, we got a trailered across there. And you know, that's great. To me, that's it. I really love old hot rod, old school drag racing, 8th mile. Funnily enough, Wally Parks always wanted big show drag racing to be 8th mile. Yeah. But, you know, it's and it's kind of going in that direction now. They're shortening the track because they're going so fast. But, yeah, I love old school, flathead Ford V8.
Yeah.
Beach racing. I love it. I'm going to Pendine next week. That's not a drag race, but, you know, I like that kind of stuff. And the big speeds, I don't care about. I'm not interested.
No.
But, yeah, I still love it. I still get a buzz out of it. I mean, running at Romo in Denmark was, you know, really a good adrenaline. The first race I was racing, it was a Duesenberg, something like that, one of those old big cars. Got off the line, just killed the guy. And the buzz was just really great. I got trashed in the next 3 races, but that first one was great. I got beat here yesterday. A lady called Maz, she beat me in her 32 sedan. But it's okay. I don't,
Yeah,
the speed or whatever doesn't matter.
It's the adrenaline.
It's the adrenaline.
It's the fun.
Yeah, it's the fun of it. It's the camaraderie. It's all the people. I mean, Nick and his team are. I only met them. God, when did I meet them? Just before COVID, I think. And we've become family. They've invited me in to be part of their family, and it's just. They came to America in 2017 through Ron Hope and raced Havoc in the US and won the championship that year. So the sort of family camaraderie, friendship of all of that. We made friends that, I never knew those people before.
Yeah,
and even with Jeff, I didn't meet Jeff till like 2017, I think. And yet, we're as tight as two friends can be.
Yeah.
Even though we live, 6,000 miles apart. And I think that's the best thing that the industry gives you. It gives you a family that other people don't have. And I was an only child. Probably obvious, but it's great to have this family and all over the world. We've got friends in Australia, New Zealand, here. It's just wonderful. And most people go through life without any of that.
Yeah.
They don't have a sport like this that they can call their own, and they don't have a family like that. So to have that, it's just fantastic. It's just amazing. And it's not available to most people.
So where's your next mission?
No, next week.
your next.
The next mission.
Your next buzz, if you like.
Right. Well, I'm racing at Pendine. I'm racing my hot rod at Pendine next week, and that's just it's like a flat out speed beach race. So it's not a drag race. It's just to see how fast you'll run, and it won't be fast.
So what is a beach? So what are you running on?
Oh, my little hot rod. I ship my hot rod.
No. The surface and
sand.
It's
beach. Yeah.
Beach.
Pendine is
because some of them are like a little bit stony as well.
Oh no, this is just sand. And it's it's very historic in the land speed racing world. Malcolm Campbell ran there.
Mm-hmm.
Parry Thomas ran there in a car called Babs, all in the 1920s, and they set land speed records there. But the problem with the beach is, it's sand and it gets chopped up, and then the sea comes in and washes it all away. So you only get a certain part of the day when you can run. It wasn't like that in Denmark. Denmark, it's a really long 23-mile beach, and it's probably a mile or two wide. So when the tide comes in, it doesn't wash the whole beach away.
Wow.
So you've still got a piece to 30,000 people there for that race.
Wow.
And it's free. Yeah. So it's absolutely incredible. So yeah, Pendine, and then I ship the hot rod back to the US, and we have a race at El Mirage in November with Jeff, land speed race, and he's trying to get to 250. And people go, oh, well, that's no big deal, but it's only a mile and a third to get to that speed, and then you've got to stop in a mile.
Yeah.
So you've got to get on it. It's a drag race from the point of view of you've got to get on it, and then you've got to get off it.
The motor that Jeff's got in that car.
Oh, mega. Yeah, absolutely mega. Yeah. Thanks to Nick and Rob and all of those guys that look after it for us. It's a 496 Brad Anderson with a 1471 and 70% nitro. It's tough, and it's dirt, and there is a lot of trash on that. We did the course walk in May, and you go out and you pick up all the nails and bits of glass and all the pebbles that are on the track, because it's a public recreation area, and the public don't know what we're doing. They don't care. They go out there and they party and have bonfires and throw bottles and do whatever the public does. So you have to go out and pick all that trash up, just like those people did in Africa when Richard Noble and Andy Green were going to go to Africa and set the land speed record. They had thousands of people picking up stones for 35 miles.
Yeah.
Now they got to put them all back because they're not going there.
Yeah.
But so that, and then the season starts again. We typically do the Grand National Roadster Show end of January, which is just a fantastic custom car show, and we nearly always have a bunch of cars in the show, including, I think, Jeff's car's been there 2 or 3 times. And then it starts again. May is the first event at El Mirage. So it's...
But that will be salt, and then...
No, that's dirt. That's dirt. And then we go get ready for August is Bonneville. And then back to El Mirage for November.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm going to try and run my car. We have an event over there called the RPM Nationals, which is 8th mile drag racing for old hot rods. And so they do one at Verona in May, I think. And then they do one at Santa Margarita in September. and I've never raced at either of those, but I want to try and do that next year while I can. You know?
So that's your next.
So next year's full up. The calendar's full up next year. Yeah, I can't even worry about the year after that. It's too far away.
I'll see you in whenever.
Yeah, whenever. I'll be somewhere. Yeah. So it's been great. It's been, you know, wonderful career.
Yeah, well, fascinating thing.
Can't have asked for anything more.
I mean, that is a pretty unique situation.
Yeah.
A paper boy. All the other stuff that you've been in, publishing books to magazines, Link House, I know very well, because my friend Richard Nichols.
Oh, yeah.
He started Nitro AM here, then Nitro FM.
Oh, okay.
And then, so I knew Richard through that. I was working on the radio station. Richard was on it. And he was Custom Car Magazine.
Yeah.
And that's so.
Yeah, I came just after him. He left, and I think there was one editor after him, and then I think I was editor.
Yeah. So Richard went on to do other stuff, but so he had Nitro here.
Oh, okay.
And then obviously we carried it on, but
that's great.
So I mean, those days, Link House, I used to work in Croydon.
Oh, okay.
In when I first started work, I worked in Grants of Croydon.
Oh, okay.
Which was like the Harrods of Croydon, wasn't it?
Yeah. The Harrods of Croydon. There's an oxymoron if ever we heard one.
Yeah,
it was a funky place, Croydon.
It was, even in days,
Yeah.
But
Bishop's Wine Bar, we spent a lot of time in Bishop's.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
More than a few hours in Bishop's Wine Bar.
Wow.
That's when you could drink and go to work.
Absolutely. That's like you said earlier. Is there a beer tent there?
Yeah, is there a beer tent? Yes, there is, Dad. Let's go. Let's go. Bless him.
Yeah.
So
that, so really, just an incredible life.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
A lot of hard work in there, but obviously...
And not always huge amounts of money, but the satisfaction, the offset in satisfaction is absolutely incredible. It's just wonderful. I wouldn't have missed... I don't think I really would have changed any of it. I mean, there were a couple of things you look back. When I left England, I thought, well, should I have stayed? But as I'm about to leave in 1988... the publishing company announced that they'd been sold to Reed, and it was gone within 2 years.
Yeah.
So if I'd stayed, I would have been out of job in 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I went, and America's been good. I mean, it's got its crazy sides like anywhere, but it's been very, very good place in this industry.
Yeah.
Because there's so much money and so much enthusiasm for it all. It's an amazing place.
It is different here. It's different here. And different in the States. So like our top fuel funny cars or top fuel cars would turn up with 1 or 2 trucks. John Fulton and all his and all that. They were just
8 or 10 trucks.
Yeah, 8 or 10 trucks.
Yeah, it's but even there, it's getting to be a struggle to find the money all the time because everything is so expensive.
Yeah, and
fuel is expensive. Just to get to the track is expensive. You got to look after all the people. You got to feed all the people. And then, that's before you pay for the race car. It's a tough sport. It really is.
Yeah,
and if you're playing tennis, I mean, I'm sure there are expenses, but basically you've got a racket and a ball.
Yeah.
We're not carrying anything else, and we're looking for drums of nitro, drums of oil, drums of plugs. I mean, whatever it is, you're constantly on the search for. I'll just tell you one little story though. I did go to Bonneville with BAR Honda. Do you remember BAR Honda? Formula One team. They came and they wanted to set a land speed record at Bonneville. And I said, well, is it a carbon fiber car? And they went, yes. I said, well, then you can't set a land speed record. They won't let you because it has to be steel tube. And they went, oh. Well, if we could, what would the record be? And I said, well, it's a 3-litre open wheel car. So basically it's a Lakester. I said, the record's 312 miles an hour. And they said, that's not possible. I said, well, that's the record. They said, well, our car will only run 250. I said, well, then you're not going to get a record. Even if they would let you run, you're not going to get a record. And they wouldn't believe it. I said, well, just look it up on the internet. It's all on there. So they came, and I don't know how many millions they spent trying to get a Formula One car to run at Bonneville. And it's on YouTube. I can't remember the name of the driver. It's supposed to be Jensen Button, but it wasn't Jensen in the end. It was somebody else. And I think they finally got to something like 297 kilometers, not miles, kilometers an hour. And it was just a miserable failure because they were an arrogant bunch of engineers, did not want to understand our sport, were trying to bring their technology to Bonneville, and they were measuring the salt, they were dropping weights on it, they were measuring holes in it. I said, what are you doing? I said, well, we're measuring the track surface. I said, but it changes every centimetre, every hour of the day. It's evolving, because in the morning it's cold and hard, then the sun comes up and sucks the water out of the lake, and then so now it's a lake and you're racing on a lake, and then as the sun gets hot it dries that water, so it goes back to being hard again, but not the same hard it was in the morning. And I said, you can't measure it.
But they're used to thinking, oh, we need to change tyres,
exactly.
we need to do this.
Oh.
Completely different. My view on it is roundy racing, I don't find it that exciting.
Me neither. Don't care.
And we have many conversations about that.
The technology is interesting, but other than that, I don't really care.
Exactly.
It doesn't do anything for me. And but then, you know, that's just how it is. So it doesn't really matter too much. So you know, we're all out there having fun.
Fantastic.
No, good. Thank you.
I'd love to do this again another time. Hopefully we can.
We've just done it.
Yeah, exactly. No. You
mean it's got no tape in that?
No. What I mean is catch up another time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, anytime.
And,
anytime.
So no, fantastic.
You have to get Jeff and Redline to bring you to California to come to El Mirage or Bonneville. I think Keith's coming this year to El Mirage.
He keeps telling us, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's on our bucket list.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
You know, so yeah, that's something it's definitely on the bucket list. So yeah.
Oh, I'm glad it was good. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.